You are listening to the Monday Night War Review, where frankincense, big business, and big techs chronologically review the Monday Night Wars from 1995 to 2001 between WCW Nitro and WWF Monday Night Raw. Join us for this roller coaster ride of nostalgia and hilarity.
It's my life in the box in front of me. Taking talk in my arms is the soul of me. You walk by, as you see me laying face down.
The moon is full. Motown's gone mad. Halloween Havoc is here. Two demons have emerged. The Giant, he has a Jones for destruction. His motorcycle smashing, back cracking, bone crunching, neck choking rampage has opened the ghastly gate for the man who could not, would not stay down. WCW World Champion Hulk Hogan has crossed over to the dark side to take on the evil powers in their own eerie world. Shudder to think. Two monster trucks will collide, and if survival is possible, they'll square off eye to eye in the fortress known as the Ring. It will happen before your very eyes, here at Halloween Havoc.
Woo!
So that was the opener for the
I
Halloween
actually
Havoc.
like the Masters opener later on, or not opener, but it's a monologue about the moon is full over Detroit, yada yada yada. It made no sense. They got to keep bringing that guy out some more.
Yeah, the Master is pretty funny, man. Like his promo he cut on Nitro the other day was even crazier than this one. We're doing the Halloween Havoc pay-per-view from 1995 in the Joe Louis Arena in Detroit. You know, we did the In Your House 4 pay-per-view the other day, and this show was close in terms of buy rate and attendance. It had a 0.6 buy rate, which was a little bit better than the 0.41 for In Your House, and it had an attendance of 13,000, which was about 3,000 more fans than the In Your House 4 pay-per-view. So neither show did amazing numbers, but WCW's pay-per-view was winning.
I feel like the first thing I noticed was empty seats in Halloween Havoc. You could pretty clearly see them, which I don't remember happening with In Your House 4. I was just surprised because I would have been there that night.
Yeah, I mean, during the mid-90s, Vince would often do the strategy of doing smaller houses with fewer seats and charging more for admission. And I don't know if WCW was... Knowing WCW, they were probably just like, we're going to get like the biggest house and we're going to pack it and we're going to sell it out, and then that didn't actually happen. Like, because I imagine the Joe Louis Arena is pretty huge. So we don't have Bischoff or Mongo on commentary like we do on Nitro. Instead, we have Tony Schiavone and Bobby Heenan as our commentary duo. We do get Bischoff for one part later, but that's pretty brief. He just comes out for the Monster Truck Showdown. So what did you guys think of Schiavone and Heenan together as opposed to our normal commentary team?
I like them. They're pretty good. Schiavone's pretty competent, and I like his exchanges with Heenan, especially once the something crazy happens later on. I thought they had I like their interactions at that point after the monster truck.
I enjoy Tony Schiavone and Bobby Heenan as a team, especially for a pay-per-view. They kind of give it that more official pay-per-view feel to it. Tony Schiavone, he's one of those announcers that I didn't really appreciate so much when I was a kid, but going back and listening to his work, he's really solid. So I enjoyed them.
Yeah, I like how Schiavone always has this like really serious look on his face. Like, he'll bring up something and then Bobby will be talking and Schiavone will just look really serious about stuff. Like, well, and I actually read in Heenan's book that he didn't always like love working with Tony, because Tony like was from a sports broadcasting background, and Heenan always got this feel that Schiavone didn't really like purely like love wrestling, but I do think they were a good duo. Business alluded to this part later where they get super serious about some tragedy that happens on the pay-per-view, and that I agree. That was probably the commentary duo was very highlighted during that part. I kind of wish Mongo was there too, but I feel like Mongo would have made a good third addition to the team. But I don't think they maybe trusted him for pay-per-view yet. I was a little disappointed that we didn't get some of the dark matches. We didn't get Disco Inferno and Eddie Guerrero.
Ooh.
Yeah, which
Yeah, I know, man.
which apparently was like only like a 3-minute match or something, so it wouldn't have been, really long or anything. But yeah, we also didn't get to see Paul Orndorff versus the Renegade, which I was like hoping to see just on kind of an awesomely bad level. And apparently that match was only like a minute long or something. We didn't get the Craig Pittman match. Pittman versus VK Wall Street. We didn't get Pittman versus VK Wall Street. And then another match that might have been nice was Chris Benoit and Dean Malenko versus the Blue Bloods. And that was actually like an 8-minute. That was like an 8-minute match. So there are these like 4 dark matches that I thought were going to be on the card, and on one hand, I'm kind of glad that they weren't, because it was already kind of a long pay-per-view. Like I don't know if I would have wanted like another like half hour tacked onto it. But I was also thinking like there were some matches on the card that could have been swapped out for some of these dark matches, I think. But
100%.
Yeah. So we'll go through it. So after the moon is full and Motown has gone mad, after they do that opener, Shivani and Heenan, hype up the kind of dual main event we're going to get, where Hogan and the Giant are going to square off in monster trucks on the roof of Cobo Hall. And then they also are going to square off in the ring, so it's sort of a double man versus man, machine versus machine, dual pay-per-view main event. The first match we get, though, is for the television title, and it's Diamond Dallas Page versus Johnny B. Bad. DDP comes down to the ring with the Diamond Doll and Max Muscle, so he's got his entourage with him. There's a really weird build-up to this match where somehow DDP caused Johnny B. Bad to get multiple flat tires when Johnny B. Bad was trying to drive to, I guess, a title shot.
The USA Championship.
When they were talking about it on Nitro, they didn't do like the greatest job of really explaining it, but they kind of replayed the backstory about that, and it's just so corny, because like when Johnny B. Bad like throws a punch at DDP during that like backstage promo explaining what happened, it just looked so corny. I noticed that Johnny B. Bad's music, I had not really appreciated Johnny B. Bad's music before. There's this one line in the song where they say, "He's as pretty as a picture. He looks just like Little Richard." Not even trying to hold back or mask that he's a blatant Little Richard ripoff. Like,
Speaking of, R.I.P.
Yeah.
Little Richard.
Just passed recently.
That's true. I just thought it was funny that in the song itself, they're just kind of saying like, "Yep, this guy's a Little Richard ripoff." Like, it's like that's But I thought his music was hilarious.
Here comes Johnny B. Bad, and you don't want to make him mad. He's as pretty as a picture. He looks just like Little Richard. Don't be fooled by his looks. He's got a mean left hook. So if you don't want to end up sad, don't mess with Johnny B. Bad.
I was glad to see the Diamond Doll. She's
That's all.
Yeah, she's a diamond in the rough. I enjoyed that during the match, DDP kept wanting her to hold up, ratings for his moves. Hold up a 10 for him on a sign, and she was kind of uncomfortable doing it, and actually ended up holding up a 10 later for Johnny B. Bad instead. Johnny B. Bad.
Heenan calling her a ditz.
Yeah. He's like, Heenan was big on basically saying that if the Diamond Doll didn't have DDP, she'd be like poor on the street and stuff. Like he kept saying that he was gonna like kick her to the curb and she was gonna end up in a soup kitchen and all this stuff. And I was like, have you seen Kimberly Page? Like, I think she's gonna be okay. Yeah, I think she could find another man. The whole Diamond Doll thing was great throughout. Paige comes to the ring with the confetti gun that he had stolen from Johnny B. Bad, and he actually fires it off in the beginning of the match, so I thought that was pretty funny. I know DDP eventually turned face and got really over with the fans, but I'm kind of loving him as a heel. I'm enjoying his heel work a lot. Yeah, I mean, so what did you guys think of this match overall?
I thought it was fine. Who is this? What's his name? Max Muscle? Mike Muscle?
Max Muscle.
Max Muscle.
Right.
Who the hell is he?
Yeah, I mean, I wish I could tell you more about this guy. I think he's just kind of like a bodyguard, sort of stooge type.
Gotcha. And then what's the story with Diamond Doll?
I mean, basically, I think at this point, Kimberly Page is actually married to him. And I think they're just setting up a gimmick where, you know, he's kind of like, they hint that he's just sort of like an abusive husband. Like, I don't know if you ever see him actually like lay hands on her, but he like bosses her around all the time. And, you know, you can see like when they were walking out to the ring together, like every time she would like interact with a fan, she was doing a good job of like watching him out of the corner of her eye to like make sure he wasn't like seeing what she was doing, or like, and then when he would see, he would like scold her. And so it's just kind of the whole like Randy Savage, Elizabeth kind of vibe where like you're supposed to, it's like you kind of hate DDP for the way he treats her, and she's very like sympathetic, and so she's popular with the fans, and so it does create this good heat around DDP as a heel, because, you know, I'm sure we've all experienced that at some point in our lives where we've seen a girl with a guy and we're like, what the hell does she see in him? Or like, how could she be with that asshole or whatever? And I think that's totally the dynamic we have going here. And I think it works pretty well.
What's the name of the ref for this match?
I think this was Nick Patrick.
Yeah. His counts were really weird.
Yeah, man.
Like, I swear he would like, you know, tap. It would be like the lightest tap on the mat, and yeah, I just noticed it a couple times. It bothered me. I was like, "Is his wrist hurt or something?" But
his inconsistent counts always bother me too.
Yeah, he has a reputation of like being a pretty like good referee, like with the boys and people backstage, and like, but I mean, I don't know, yeah. It always looks like he's, like, sliding into home plate when he's going for the count, too. Like, he always, like, dives and does, like, a big slide, and then he, like, he counts one, lifts his hand and, like, shakes it, and then counts two, lifts his hand and shakes it. Yeah, it's really, I don't know, man. He's weird. And there always seems to be some kind of strange finish when he's involved, or some controversy or something. I actually thought this was one of the better matches. Did you enjoy the work, Tex?
Yeah, I thought the work was actually pretty good. Kind of surprised me a little bit. I didn't really know what to expect from early DDP, but you know, we saw some good things. We saw his pancake maneuver. He had used that later on as a face, and I didn't realize that he had started using that move this early on. I thought the whole thing with Kimberly giving, you know, ratings for the different moves was really good. Those spots were excellent. Like when she gave Johnny B. Bad the 10 for that double axe handle from the top rope, like that was excellent. It got a pretty decent pop. What I didn't really like was the finish. I just thought it could have been executed a little better. Like I saw how it worked. Like in terms of psychology, it just looked like that clothesline was a little too weak to get a 3 count.
I agree. I think it would have been better if Max Muscle hit him with the clothesline and then Johnny B. Bad did like a top rope move afterwards or something.
Yeah.
Like that would have been better, you know, like, because Johnny B. Bad, I mean, I don't really like when Mark Marrow talks too much. I don't think he cuts the best promo, and I just don't like his voice that much, but his in-ring work is awesome. Like he's super athletic. Like these like spots he does over the top rope to like the outside, and just, you know, like that kind of moonsault he does where he jumps around and turns around backwards like on the top rope and then does the moonsault. Like I guess the marrow salt, the marrow salt or whatever, and you know, he would do like a shooting star press and just all this stuff. So he's super athletic, and I really love the match that he had with Brian Pillman at Fall Brawl. And then I thought this was also one of the better matches on the card. So to me, like, even though he's very mid-card, like, I'm always happy to see Johnny B. Bad / Mark Marrow. Yeah, so as we said, there was a lot of back and forth in the match. They actually fought in the crowd a little bit and, were hitting each other over the guardrails. DDP hit his pancake. There was a lot of, drop kicks and planchas and DDTs. Eventually, Max Muscle inadvertently hits DDP with a clothesline when DDP's trying to hold Johnny B. Bad. Johnny B. Bad ducks, and DDP gets smacked. So Johnny B. Bad wins and becomes the new television champion. And I think when DDP realizes that Kimberly was holding up a 10 for Johnny B. Bad, I think this feud is only going to intensify. I kind of feel like the pay-per-view sort of went downhill as it progressed. But when I saw this first match, I was like, oh, this could be pretty good. This was fun. But then
that was a solid start to the pay-per-view.
Yeah, and there was some kind of story that you could sort of care about with Kimberly and Paige and just, Johnny B. Bad having been screwed by this, trashy heel and everything. I was pretty into it. I was not so much into the next match, which was Zodiac and Macho Man Randy Savage. I did notice that they said that the Zodiac is from the land of yin and yang. That was something I noticed that I hadn't noticed before. They also did this weird thing where, there was some young woman near the entrance ramp, and, when Savage came out, he went over to her and was kind of, whispering in her ear and sort of posing with her. And it looked like she even followed him down to the ring. And I just wrote down, who is this chick with Macho Man? Who? They're not explaining it. And, she was just randomly there. And, she was, a good-looking girl. And then Savage did allude to it later when he was, doing a promo with Mean Gene backstage. He said something about how, oh, and I even got fan involvement tonight or, something. So I guess they were just maybe doing something for a fan. But
well, I thought the fan involvement was because of the fan who tried to get in the ring.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Oh, well, that's true too. So okay, well then maybe he didn't explain this chick at all. Okay.
I think that chick was just a ring girl because I thought I saw her in another match carrying somebody else's entrance attire back. I don't know if he was just hitting on her or whatever, but probably. I saw her later on in the show just kind of carrying somebody else's ring attire back. I couldn't remember who exactly it was.
Okay, well, okay. So I guess maybe he was just hitting on her. That's fine, I guess. They did mention that this was originally supposed to be Kamala instead of the Zodiac, and Shivani says we have no idea what happened to Kamala, and so Heenan just says that Sullivan beat Kamala up and sent him back to Uganda. I actually saw that poor Kamala is he's both his legs are amputated because of his unregulated diabetes, and he's in a wheelchair. Yeah, I saw a shoot interview of Kamala. I just felt bad for him because he seemed like a super nice guy who had just been kind of taken advantage of by the wrestling business, and I was like, oh, it's but good for him. He's famous. So both Zodiac and Macho Man were involved in this War Games match last month at Fall Brawl, and so I guess this is kind of a grudge match to keep that rivalry sort of alive between the Dungeon of Doom and the allies of Hulk Hogan. Macho Man attacks first by hitting Zodiac in the back while Zodiac's posing. Macho kind of works Zodiac over for a while, but then, as you guys said, a fan tries to get into the ring. The fan basically tries to do everything he can to get to both wrestlers, but the referee and security get him out of there. Zodiac hits Macho with some offense, but he's taken down pretty quickly, and Macho hits the elbow drop and wins the match in only a minute and 30 seconds. So on one hand, I was happy that Savage won because I had promised to turn off the pay-per-view if he didn't. So I was happy that he won, and I did want to see what they were going to do with Savage and Luger, so I was really hoping they didn't bait and switch us and not give us that match. So, because the whole premise was that if Savage beats Zodiac and Luger beats Ming, then Savage and Luger are going to have a match too. I think we all kind of pretty much expected Savage to win. There wasn't too much to this match. I think, when the biggest thing going on is a fan running into the ring, then, you know that there wasn't much to speak for of the match itself. I was most interested in who the hell this chick at the beginning of the match was. So,
yeah, I tried looking it up. I couldn't find anything.
Well, yeah, any thoughts on Savage and Zodiac?
Great match, great ring work. 5 stars.
Yeah.
No, yeah, you're exactly right. There's not a whole ton to say.
Yeah, it's hard to tell whether the fan running in kind of threw off their plan for the match, but it seemed like once that whole situation was cleared up, Savage was just ready to just get it over with and kind of just gave him the cue to go home. And then next thing you know, he's hitting the big elbow. So I was satisfied. I mean, it was a quick match, wasn't very long. Got a big elbow from Randy Savage out of it. I'll take it. Wasn't great, but I'll take it.
I was just disappointed, and I kind of was looking at the dark matches, and I'm like, I think I would have rather had Guerrero and Disco or Malenko and Benoit versus the Blue Bloods. Or
Yeah.
Did you get the sense that something was wrong? What was going on with Macho's arm?
I noticed that later on.
I don't know.
Because
He
that's
was
what
kind of holding his arm. It looked like he had a cast on it, and he was kind of
exactly.
almost kind of favoring it a little bit.
Yep.
It was his
And
left elbow. It wasn't like his right one.
And that's why I thought maybe they rushed that match along. Like, they're like, oh, we got to do this, but we got to save you for later. We'll just kind of, throw you out there for 90 seconds and get you back.
Yeah, I mean, that's very possible. I mean, Savage even seemed a little off when he was doing his promo with Okerlund later in the back, so I don't know. Maybe it's just sort of an off night. Speaking of Mean Gene, after this match, he's backstage. He's putting over the WCW hotline where you can call for all the latest gossip. Johnny B. Bad comes to join him. He cuts a pretty generic babyface promo about people can achieve anything if they follow their dreams, and yeah, I just...
Which isn't true, by the way.
I mean, for a lot of people, it's not. Gene kind of asks him about DDP, and Bad just says that he's never going to give up and he's never going to quit WCW, which is kind of hilarious because he's gone from the company a pretty short time after this, and we'll see him in the WWF as Wildman Mark Marrow, and that wife of his who ended up being pretty famous, Sable's reign will commence. She'll become very popular, and poor Mark Marrow will just fall to the wayside.
We'll get power bombed by her, right?
Sable bombed.
Yeah.
Sable bombed.
Sable bombed. Oh God.
I know.
Okay.
Yeah.
God. Yeah, I'll save my thoughts for Sable when they're appropriate. So, so after this kind of generic promo with Johnny B. Bad, we get Road Warrior Hawk versus Kurosawa. Kurosawa is accompanied to the ring by Colonel Parker, who actually plays a role in this match. We have yet to see Colonel Parker really do anything as Kurosawa's manager. I want to see him cut a promo about Kurosawa. I love the idea of this Southern guy in his cowboy hat cutting a promo about his Japanese hired hand that he has now and all that. I wish we could actually because to me it doesn't make any sense for them to be together. So I want them to do something to make it make sense. So at least Parker interfered.
You know what the basis of his character is?
Right. Yeah. It's for Colonel Tom Parker.
Exactly. Right. So and that guy. I think he's gonna basically be the villain in the upcoming Elvis biopic. So they got to make Colonel Robert Parker, a bit more of a villain, get him out there a bit.
Yeah, and when I was reading Mick Foley's book, Mick Foley was saying that he loves this Robert Parker guy, and they were super big friends backstage. And Mick Foley says he was this hilarious, super charismatic, cool dude. And I'm we need to I want more of him. I want to know about his...
I don't think we've seen him cut a promo yet.
Exactly. All we know is that he's in a love affair with Sherry, and that he manages Kurosawa for some inexplicable reason. What did you think of this this match, Tex?
To me, this was the most forgettable match on the card, to be honest. Road Warrior Hawk with no animal. Considering some of the dark matches that we didn't get, this was the stinker for me on this card. Finish was kind of lame with Colonel Parker holding Hawk down, while Kurosawa got that pinfall. But yeah, not much to it. Gave it 1.5 stars. Was kind of glad it was on the short side.
Yeah, I think their logic was that they were okay, this match actually has some kind of backstory to it because Kurosawa quote unquote broke his arm. And I was a little disappointed because I was kind of hoping in a weird way that he actually did really break his arm, and that even if it was an accident or something in the match, I was kind of hoping that it was real. But then when they showed the clip of it, it kind of looked pretty over the top and fake. But I think what they figured was like, oh, okay, we want all the shows on the pay-per-view to have this like backstory that we can like build up to somehow. And because they, like with the Johnny B. Bad and DDP match, they kind of talked about the backstory. Even with like Sav and Zodiac, like there was some kind of story where I think they were like, we're not going to throw Eddie and Disco on there as just like a random match that doesn't have like any stake or something. So I agree, this wasn't a match to write home about. Basically, Hawk just beat the crap out of Kurosawa for like the vast majority of the match, and then Kurosawa like got some offense in. He got his like, what's that move called, Tex, where like he holds him up? It's almost like a back body drop, but he like carries him as he does it. Like I think it's a Japanese move, but
The one off the ropes where he kind of falls down with it.
yeah, he did it to Pittman on the outside of the ring one time when we were watching Nitro. But he did it to Pittman like on the floor, which was pretty. I just love that move. I don't know. It's almost like I don't even know. Yeah, the best I can call it is like a holding back body drop or something. But that move's cool.
Yeah, I don't know what the name of it is called. I remember like on the games, like all the Japanese guys would kind of have that move.
Yeah, I feel like Tatanka used to kind of do it too. And then yeah, he also hit a Samoan drop on Hawk. And then as we said, Parker holds Hawk's leg from the outside of the ring so Kurosawa can get the pin. Kurosawa and Parker kind of escape up the aisleway celebrating, but then Hawk also kind of just celebrates on his own in the ring to the fans, which I thought I was like, you lost the match, man. I don't know. So I don't know, man. I like Kurosawa. I hope we kind of see him for a while. I like his work and his look, and yeah, I've always enjoyed watching his matches. They're always like stiff and they always are just hard-hitting. I like them. Okay, so Mean Gene Okerlund is backstage with the Macho Man. Macho talks about his upcoming match with Luger. He says that, they were teammates last month at Fall Brawl, but there's kind of been dissension and a rift. He says he's going to show Luger who the real man is. Gene brings up the Monster Truck battle later in the night, and Macho says he is with Team Hogan all the way. And hilariously, he all of a sudden just yells at Mean Gene. He's like, your mustache is crooked. You guys must have noticed this, right? Like,
oh yeah.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
I was like, why would you say that? Like, oh man. Like, I don't know if Macho was just out of his mind, man. Like, what would compel you to say that during this interview?
Yeah.
It was so awkward, and like Gene tried to like, Gene immediately fired back about how Savage's beard was crooked, too. I thought that was funny. Suddenly, the whole interview just turned super awkward. Like, they were both just, like, bumbling, stumbling, like, talking about nonsense after he said that thing about his mustache. I just thought it was so random and out of nowhere. It was kind of heelish, too. Like, to me, that's something like DDP would have said to Mean Gene or something. Like, get that crooked mustache out of here, Gene, or just like something. It just didn't seem like something Macho Man would yell at Mean Gene, so I don't know. That was hilarious to me. But other than the mustache being crooked, it was a pretty throwaway promo. So we get a rematch between Mr. JL and Sabu. We had seen these guys work together on Nitro, and they're having a rematch here. Sabu is accompanied to the ring by his uncle, who's the original Sheik. Yes. I thought that was kind of cool. This match was kind of frenetic and a little all over the place, but I still enjoyed it. I did like when Bobby Heenan was saying, what does JL stand for? And he said, jerk at lunch. And then he said, just a loser. And I was
just a loser.
I was cracking up when he said just a loser. Jerk at lunch was a pretty bad one. That was kind of a stretch, but just a loser was hilarious. I was dying when he said that.
Okay, do we know what it stands for?
I mean, I think it's just Jerry Lynn.
Oh,
but they're never. I don't think they're ever going to actually tell us. Like, I think the whole thing is that, oh, he's mysterious. We don't know very much about him. It's like that's what they say every time. Like, very mysterious. We don't know who is this guy. We don't know anything about this guy. Like, that's his whole thing, is that he's just mysterious, I guess. Yeah, I actually kind of feel like their match on Nitro might have been better. This one was just kind of crazy. Like, there were so many moonsaults and just like high. Like, I feel like Sabu did like 5 moonsaults in this match. There was also this crazy spot where he did like an acai moonsault onto both JL, and he like hit his uncle. Like, he hit the Sheik on the way down too, so the original Sheik took a bump on the outside. Yeah, I mean, it was just kind of a lot of like high flying crazy stuff. Some of it was very tight, some of it was very sloppy. Eventually, Sabu, he does this kind of moonsault into the ring, and he wins with that. And then, kind of inexplicably, after Sabu's already won, the Sheik shoots a fireball at JL's face, like, just to add insult to injury, I guess. It seemed like it would have made more sense for him to do that as, like, interference to help Sabu win, but whatever.
I don't know. I like it. It's a little gratuitous.
He's known for it. I mean, apparently that's one of the things that the original Sheik is known for, is blowing fireballs in people's faces.
I was okay with it. It just kind of seemed like it was a little extra. Like, I just would have preferred it to be during the match to have, like, an influence on the match.
Yeah.
But I did like the Sheik out there with his machete, and, you know, I thought it was great. I mean, it just made me like Sabu even more. But yeah, I mean, not like the greatest match, and it was very quick. It was in about like 3 minutes. But I still liked it. I feel like they should have given this more time. But what did you guys think of JL and Sabu's follow-up here?
Yeah, I felt a lot the same. You know, I felt much the same way. It was just rushed. It felt like they tried to squeeze a ton of big spots into a short amount of time, and in a lot of Sabu matches, you get this. You know, a lot of stuff winds up looking a little sloppy. But I like the aesthetic of having the original Sheik out there. I thought it was cool, especially being in Detroit, because I'm pretty sure he's from Detroit, if I'm not mistaken. And then the finish was okay. As far as that springboard moonsault move, I can't remember the exact name of it either. But yeah, a lot of it just felt rushed and sloppy. Like they really didn't have that much time. It's like backstage they gave him like a set amount of time, and they had a certain match planned out, so they tried to get it all worked in to this short amount of time, and it just came off looking rushed. I gave it like 2 stars. I thought it had a lot of potential for more.
Yeah, they said that the Sheik was the man who built Cobo Hall. So you're right that he has at least some roots in Detroit, and Cobo Hall will play a role later in the evening. We get a Dungeon of Doom backstage promo with Kevin Sullivan and the Master. So Business alluded to this a little earlier. The Master is sitting on his throne, and he's kind of talking more crazy mystical nonsense, kind of like he did on Nitro. He's not going quite as crazy as he did on Nitro.
Yeah, he said his son Sullivan will walk on the galaxies or something. So.
Yeah. He was referring to Sullivan as his son a lot, and he kept talking about. Oh, he said there was going to be a total eclipse of the sun.
Yeah, and he mentions Tokyo, Japan,
and
Beijing,
Peking,
China.
I think it was Peking.
Or Peking,
Yeah,
right.
It was Peking. But yeah, I've been listening very closely to the Master because he's kind of a little hard to understand, you know. I've been trying to like soak in what's actually going on. But yeah, like on Nitro, he talked about like Kathmandu and Mount Everest and Sherpas pulling the Yeti out in a 13-ton block of ice. And so
they should put him in the commentator's booth.
Oh my god.
For 1 or 2 matches. They don't have to do it the whole pay-per-view.
Just this guy slowly yelling about crazy stuff. He sounds like a homeless man on the corner who's just gone a little cuckoo. But yeah, he's basically talking about how they're not only going to destroy Hulkamania and WCW, but around the whole globe. I'm pretty sure they mentioned the insurance policy of the Yeti again. Yeah, you know, it was kind of long. It was sort of a long promo. I kind of felt like Kevin Sullivan was trying not to laugh during the Masters part.
I think you're exactly right.
Yeah, you see his face. Like, his face was kind of like he was trying to be serious, but you could see that little twinkle in the eye of somebody who kind of wants to laugh, you know? So, yeah, that was just kind of a funny thing. Then we go to another promo. Mean Gene is backstage with Hogan, and there's all these other people there who I think are mostly from Harley Davidson. Basically, Hogan is presenting a new Harley Davidson motorcycle to a fan who entered a contest for it.
So cool.
The guy's name was...
I'm gonna ride that hog back down to Alabama.
Yeah, the guy did have a southern accent, and he was really excited that he was gonna drive the motorcycle all the way back to where he was originally from. The guy's name was Mike Hall. So Hogan gives him the motorcycle, and he kind of talks about his upcoming battle with the Giant later in the night. Mean Gene talks to the Harley Davidson representatives. They give this Mike guy a custom jacket and a hat as well. And they talk about how this motorcycle means a lot to Hulk Hogan in particular, which I was a little confused about. Maybe they meant the model of the motorcycle.
Yeah, it'd be funny if they're like, yeah, this was the motorcycle the giant ran over.
Yeah.
We put it together and it's yours.
Yeah, Hogan didn't want it anymore, so we're giving it away to you. I think it was probably the make and model of the motorcycle that was what Hogan liked. Yeah, I mean, kind of just more fan service, and I think it was just Bischoff and Hogan were both big Harley Davidson people, and so I think they were just getting their rocks off with this. There's a commercial for WCW World War III on November 26th.
This looks great.
So I'm actually kind of excited about it, just from like a spectacle standpoint, because it's essentially the WCW's answer to the Royal Rumble, except they have 3 rings and 60 men. And I think in this, I think they're gonna do something for this World War III where each of the rings is gonna have a giant. Where like you're gonna have the giant and the Yeti and
the Yeti,
or the Yeti, and then I don't know who the third giant's gonna be, but it sounds like they're gonna do something where each of the 3 rings has a giant in it, and that'll be coming up pretty soon, in less than a month, on November 26th. So that should be kind of interesting to watch. And I know about World War III and their whole 3 rings thing, but I've never watched one. So, and watching my first War Games match at Fall Brawl was definitely an interesting novelty as a wrestling fan. I had never really seen something like the War Games match either, so kind of excited.
Games was 2 rings, right?
Yeah, and it was 2 rings inside of a cage.
Ooh.
Yeah, and it was kind of goofy and sort of a funny match, but it was entertaining, and so I have a feeling that World War III will be very long. And I don't know. I just hope they're able to make it like entertaining all the way through. But and I think they said that the winner of that match gets a title shot. So
I heard the third giant is he's called the Mummy, and he's dressed as a Yeti. So
that would be so good if they were like, it's the Mummy, the Mummy. And he comes out and he looks like an abominable snowman. Yeah.
and all that happens is that the giants they get the smaller guys in bear hugs, and they just do that for 3 hours.
Yeah, man, this double bear hug spot we get later is legendary. So they hype up the pay-per-view in November, and then we get Ming versus Lex Luger. If Luger wins, then he gets to face Savage later. Ming comes down to the ring with the Taskmaster in tow. This is also kind of like the Zodiac Savage match, where it's basically building off of the War Games feud between the Hulkamaniacs and the Dungeon of Doom. Tex, what did you think of our boy Luger and his yells in this match?
Oh, man. There were so many. Like, there was a point where every punch or every kick, I mean, he was doing like a mud hole stomping in the corner, and it was just literally just shout after shout after shout after shout. It was ridiculous, man.
Yeah, dude. It seems to happen a lot in his matches with Ming. I love Ming, man. He's awesome.
Yeah.
I can't wait. I forget what their name is, but there's a point where Ming and the Barbarian hook up to be like a tag team in WCW, and I wish I could remember their name, but they are an awesome tag team. They're like the Samoan version of the Steiner Bros, where they just like beat the crap out of everybody. I can't wait to see those guys.
Oh, weren't they the Faces of Fear?
Yes, Faces of Fear, dude. You are right. That is the name. I can't wait for the Faces of Fear. That's gonna be a fun team to watch. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of back and forth in the match. Ming hits a pile driver. I always like his pile driver. There's a lot of like, shoulder blocks and suplexes and, nothing too fancy in the ring.
Got a shoulder breaker in there.
Ming did a shoulder breaker.
Yeah.
Yeah. He does a lot of like shoulder breakers, back breakers, pile drivers.
It was one of those Rocky Maivia shoulder breakers. It wasn't like a Shango one.
So a sort of a safer one, I guess.
Yeah, it's like he scooped him up like he was doing a scoop slam and did it that way rather than the power bomb version.
Yeah. Eventually, Luger hits a forearm smash that knocks Ming down. He also does a back body drop and a couple clotheslines and then a power slam. He goes for the pin, but then Ming hits him with that spike. And I thought that was kind of lame, considering pretty recently on Nitro we saw like the exact same thing in a match between them. So Ming goes.
They need to check these guys before they go out to the ring.
Yeah, refs used to kind of pat guys down, a little bit to like check they didn't have any foreign objects, like a TSA person or something. Yeah, I mean, so we get the spike from Ming again, and then in a strange turn of events, Kevin Sullivan comes into the ring and does just a little kick on the guys to break up the pin and cause a disqualification. So I guess we're supposed to assume that the Taskmaster really wanted Savage and Luger to face off, and so he was trying to make sure Luger got the win by DQ so that match could happen. Not really sure how else to interpret it. After the match, Ming confronts Sullivan about like what the hell that was all about, and looks like Sullivan's trying to explain. Yeah, I guess it's just some kind of nefarious plot from the Taskmaster in the Dungeon of Doom. Any big picture, small picture thoughts on Lex Luger and Meng?
Wait, so Sullivan, was he doing that because he thought he was trying to bring Lex Luger over to Dungeon of Doom? That's why I thought he was doing it, not because I thought he really cared about Luger versus unless that was part of the game where if it's Luger versus Savage, maybe he can get Luger to come over to the Dungeon of Doom.
It does seem like he's trying to recruit Luger, and as we'll see later, Luger does turn heel. But the whole way they went about it was kind of a strange setup, because there's key interference in the Luger match too against Savage, but that doesn't work out for Luger. So it's all just very confusing. I felt like the whole plot of Lex Luger during this pay-per-view did not make a lot of sense. Backstage, Mean Gene is with the Giant. The Giant's wearing this big like jumpsuit in preparation for the Monster Truck match. He grabs Mean Gene's hand with the microphone still in it, and Mean Gene is like in pain because apparently the Giant is crushing Mean Gene's hand. I mean, he cuts a pretty standard promo on Hogan, says Hogan's not man enough to meet him at the top of Cobo Hall. He says that it'll be machine versus machine up there, and no way Hogan can overpower him. He's going to push Hogan off the roof and then roll him back into the ring and win the title. Flying Brian Pillman and Arn Anderson face Sting and the Nature Boy Ric Flair. What did you guys think of this tag match and how it played out at the end?
Great. Love Sting. I was fine with how it played out. I think it was logical. So what? How long before? So the whole idea is Sting comes out, Flair's not there. Flair got injured or something. Hasn't shown up yet. So it's kind of like the Nitro, where Flair's out there and Sting, hasn't shown up yet.
Yep.
And Sting is taking care of business. And then Flair shows up in his Italian loafers and everything. And there's the whole, trying to get Sting to make the tag to get Flair in there so he can take care of business. And I'll leave it to you to describe the kind of where the match goes. But what I loved was, when Sting's trying to get the tag and Flair's trying to get tagged in, they're like yelling at each other. And Flair's yelling at Sting. He's like, Stinger! And Sting's yelling at Ric Flair. He's like, Nature Boy!
Yeah.
It was just awesome.
Yeah. I love Sting on the ground, like writhing in pain, like, Nature Boy! Nature Boy! It was awesome. Yeah, I agree. It was totally the reverse of Nitro, where one guy's out there in a handicap match until the other comes to his rescue. And you're right that the whole storyline was that apparently earlier in the night, Arn Anderson and Pillman had beaten up Flair. So Flair comes out and he's got his forehead is still like wrapped in tape. And yeah, he's out there in just like his dress clothes. And he seems like super eager to get in there, and the crowd is really hot for it. You know, they're chanting, "We want Flair," and you can tell they want him to get that hot tag so badly. But Tex, tell us what happens when Flair does finally get the tag.
Oh, it's just a complete double cross. And this is... I already liked the match because when Flair came out, they didn't just instantly give us Flair and, like, you know, the hot tag, and then he comes in and cleans house with the street clothes on. Like, they didn't instantly give us that. They made us wait for the tag. You know, he spoiled a pin there, like, after an Arn Anderson spine buster and everything. And they were making frequent tags, isolating Sting. So what the double cross made the match all the better for me. I mean, it was just vintage Flair, man. He's the dirtiest player in the game. You know, don't trust Flair. It's pretty awesome. I loved it.
Yeah, man. So as soon as Flair gets tagged in, he immediately starts whacking Sting and punching him, and then all three guys, Sting even tries to fight back, which was pretty cool. Like, Sting got some shots in on Flair, but then they overpowered him 3 versus 1 and put the beat down on him and stuff. And you know, so Flair, Anderson, and Pillman are all celebrating, holding up their 4 Horsemen signs, and, you know, Flair's wooing his ass off, and, you know, and they even cut a little promo in the aisleway with Mean Gene, where they all they all get their digs in on the fans and on Sting, and basically the 4 Horsemen are back, and pretty sure we're gonna get, like, I think, like, Benoit's going to be in the Horsemen. I think Malenko's going to be in the Horsemen. I think Mongo's going to be in the Horsemen. Like, so they're going to add some more people to this kind of new 4 Horsemen faction, you know. So that was kind of cool. I mean, it was probably the most interesting match on the show in a way. Like, it had, the fans were, like, super live for it. It had a lot of heat at the end. It's going to lead to, you know, a feud with Sting and the Horsemen, I'm assuming, and, you know, so, because it seems like Savage and Hogan are now going to be like a duo going up against the Dungeon of Doom based on what happens later, so this will give Sting something to do with the Horsemen and everything. Besides interviewing the Horsemen, Mean Gene also puts over the WCW hotline, and they show Hawk backstage talking on the phone. Mike Tenay is backstage with Lex Luger, so that was pretty cool. I think this is our first on-screen appearance of Mike Tenay, who I'm a fan of. And he asks, Mike Tenay is not the most, like, lively, charismatic guy, but he's, like, incredibly knowledgeable. So he's just always dropping awesome, like, history and facts and little details about people's backstory and stuff. And apparently he was known to have these, like, massive, like, binders of information that he would take with him everywhere. Like, people said that he was this total, like, wrestling dork where he just had these, like, massive archives of, like, you know, cards from past shows and, like, records and all this stuff, which I thought was pretty cool to learn that about him. And pretty soon he's going to be doing all these, like, cruiserweight and, like, lucha libre little, like, mini documentaries on Nitro, which I'm excited about. Tenay asks Luger about his match with Macho Man. Luger talks about the forces in World Championship Wrestling not wanting him to come out on top. He said people wanted this match to happen for some reason that's unknown to him. He says when the bell rings, friendships won't matter, and that he's going to beat the Macho Man, and he will eventually win the title from Hogan. He says he's going to take Savage apart piece by piece. So they were hinting, I think, at Luger turning. I think I do like Luger better as a heel. I can't really decide, but I think I'm going to like him better as a heel, because I'm not the biggest fan of him as a face. So now we get the Cobo Hall Monster Truck battle. So Eric Bischoff and Bob Chandler come to join Heenan on commentary. So they replace Schiavone. He's gone for a little while for this match. Apparently Bob Chandler was the guy who designed both of the monster trucks. So, yeah, I had never watched this. I had only kind of heard about its legend. What did you guys think of this monster truck spectacle on the top of Cobo Hall?
Man, wow. crazy watching those monster trucks try and push each other out of a ring, and then the fireworks go off. Whoa! And it wasn't even filmed live. I guess it was filmed the night before. So
makes sense. Makes sense.
Exactly. Kind of it ruined it for me when I found that out. I thought this was going on. Actually on top, but yeah, it was kind of stupid. I love what happens though with so Hogan, his truck pushes both axles of Giant's truck out, so he's technically the winner. Hogan jumps out of his truck, Giant jumps out of his truck, and then Giant's running after him. They're getting pretty close to the ledge, and Giant picks up Hogan, and somehow they both end up on the ledge, and then Giant loses his balance and falls off the building, presumably into the river, never to be seen again. So it was great. It was great. The best part of this thing was how the commentary team reacted. So
after the fact. Yeah,
exactly.
I just thought by the end, with the outcome of having Giant fall off the ledge, and they kind of leave it up in the air as to, what his fate was. It was obviously staged, because it would have been a much bigger deal had that not gone according to plan. I mean, ironically, next week's episode in the season finale of Dark Side of the Ring is on Owen Hart, so. I found it really kind of, coincidental that we're watching this pay-per-view, and the announcing team is trying to play it off like this is a real tragedy that's going on. They don't know what's going on. And, we kind of remember what happened the night of Owen Hart and that pay-per-view, and the way the announcing team had to handle that. And so, I don't know. It made me think of that. It was kind of weird.
Yeah, because with Owen Hart, they just kept going with the show, which was pretty weird, and they actually announced his death on air, which is crazy. Jim Ross says that was the biggest call he's ever made in his career, in a sad way. Yeah, I thought the whole thing was pretty hilarious with the monster trucks. I love how they kept saying there's these charges that have been placed in the big metal circle, and you never know when one of them might run over one of these charges, and they're like, if it hits their fuel, they're going to explode, and they're going to, who knows what's going to happen. And so they're like, we got ambulances here, and we got firemen, and they were trying to play it up like it was, incredibly dangerous, which I guess on one hand it kind of was an incredibly dangerous thing to be doing. But they really played up the danger, and they talked about how the two trucks were going to be welded together, and that they had to push each other out of this big metal ring, and and the commentary team did their best to put it over as it was going on. But I mean, it was kind of boring. They were just sort of spinning their wheels in the middle of this big metal ring, just pushing each other back and forth. And they sort of teased that the Giant was going to win because he pushed two of Hogan's axles out, but he didn't get them all the way out. And then one of the charges did go off. It looked like it was kind of just a firework or something. After the match, as business said, there's a scrap between Hogan and the Giant, and the Giant's kind of choking Hogan on the ledge, and then Hogan lifts his arms to knock the Giant's arms off of him, and when doing that, the Giant tips backwards and falls off of the roof. And Hogan even tries to grab him and catch him, but it's too late, and the Giant just falls, and so Hogan just runs for help, and then Shivani and Heenan are totally playing it up after the fact. Heenan is just yelling at everybody around him to go find out what happened, and that he wants news now, and that that he and the Giant's father go way back. And so Heenan just did a good job of trying to make it seem as real as possible.
I feel like the Bob Chandler guy though, right after it happened, he was like, "Was that supposed to happen?" Which I got a kick out of. I couldn't tell if he was playing dumb or what, but it was pretty funny.
Yeah, I mean, I just like how how concerned Heenan was, and then Shivani was just so like,
Yeah, Shivani's like, we're not gonna be able to do anything from here. Like,
yeah, and he's just, we don't know, and he's just like, well, I don't know, Bobby, what do you want me to do? Like, Shivani was just so like lax about it compared to Heenan, which I thought was funny. So Bischoff leaves apparently to try to get answers from the back. So then Shivani comes back to join the commentary team, and we get our Lex Luger, Macho Man, Randy Savage match. The whole giant falling off the roof angle, I get why they would spend so much time talking about it, but it did kind of take away a little bit from this match, because it seemed like that's what they were talking about throughout like most of the match, so we didn't really pay that much attention to like Luger and Savage and their feud. And in a strange, unexpected turn, Jimmy Hart comes down to the ring. He doesn't really have anything to do with this. He's dressed in all black, like Hogan is these days. And Jimmy Hart kind of gets involved in the match. He distracts the referee at some point, and then Luger like accidentally runs into Jimmy Hart and kind of gets knocked out, and then Savage hits the elbow. So I thought this was really strange, because Luger and Jimmy Hart effectively like turn heel tonight, and the whole thing with Luger is confusing. Like, his match with Ming is broken up in a strange way, and then this match has strange interference. I don't know. Like, I think they were just trying to really swerve us, where it's like, but then when you think about the swerve in retrospect, you're like, this doesn't make sense logically at all.
They could have been a bit more conventional, and I think things would have worked out better. They were trying to throw too much, like, oh my God, Jimmy Hart, oh my God, Lex Luger, oh my God, the Yeti. Like, what they should have done, well, I'll wait for it, but I'll leave this editorial point to the end.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it just, as much as I liked Hart and Luger turning heel, I actually did like that part, but it just, I found it very hard to believe. It felt a little forced. Tex, any thoughts on Savage Luger here?
Not really. I was just confused with Jimmy Hart's involvement. The whole Lex Luger thing was, like you said, really confusing to me. Couldn't really figure out, what the big deal was with Sullivan wanting Luger versus Savage to go on, and then, they kind of just had this interference that pretty much cost Luger the match. I just didn't really follow that well. Maybe there's something I missed, but hey, I mean, we got another top rope elbow finish from Randy Savage, so that's all good in my book.
Yeah, two Randy Savage elbows in one night,
Yeah.
and Savage got 2 wins in under 7 minutes.
I'll take it.
Maybe his arm was legitimately injured, and they were trying to make his stuff really quick. Yeah, after the match, Bobby Heenan like leaves for a second to try to see what's going on backstage, but then he comes like right back immediately and says there's like too many people waiting around that he can't get through, and he yells at Shivani a little more. He talks about Andre the Giant and how concerned he is about what's going on. We do get the main event now, the WCW World Heavyweight title match. Hulk Hogan comes out with Jimmy Hart. Michael Buffer is there to do the introductions. That becomes kind of a normal thing for WCW pay-per-views to have Michael Buffer come out. And they paid him so much money just to do these like main event.
How much money?
Oh, tons. Like, I think Buffer was getting like, I want to say like $500,000 or like something
God.
Yeah, and I think it even got like crazier. Like when they got even more popular and they had much bigger draws, like I think Buffer was getting paid huge money to do this announcing for WCW. And, obviously he does have like a cool voice, and he is pretty famous in the world of combat sports as an announcer and stuff. But like, just, you don't need him, and to like pay him so much money when you could be, boosting the payoff for the workers themselves. So Buffer's out there to do the introductions. He tries to introduce the Giant first, but then Hogan's music plays and he comes out first instead. Hogan's dressed in all black. He's got Jimmy Hart holding the title for him. Hogan grabs the mic and he says that he didn't mean to push the Giant off the building. Just as he says that, the Dungeon of Doom music plays and the Giant walks down to the ring.
Which they should have had the Giant in a soaking wet jumpsuit walking. So he'd be like, oh my God, he was in the river, he survived.
Yeah, I agree. I would have liked him to be in the same attire from the Monster Truck match. And yeah, having his hair and his jumpsuit all wet would have been a good effect. But he comes down kind of just in his regular ring attire. He runs in to grab Hogan, but Hogan jumps out and kind of walks around the ring to sort of compose himself. Eventually, the ref gets Hogan back in the ring to start the match. They kind of circle each other around in the ring for a while. Hogan gets the upper hand. I mean, I have like a lot of notes about the choreography of the match, but I don't think it's like super important in this case. I think all you need to know is that there were a lot of big chops, a lot of big clubbing blows. Giant did hit the choke slam at one point, but Hogan kicked out and kind of started hulking up.
That was crazy.
Oh, the way he kicked out.
He kicks out of the choke slam, man.
And he like lifted the Giant off of him. Like it was like he kicked out so emphatically.
It's like, I know it's Hogan, man, but dude, this is the Giant. It's a choke slam.
I know. And there were a couple really prolonged bear hug spots.
The bear hug. I don't see why they think that's like a telegenic move or hold.
I mean,
it doesn't even come across that like the guy who's getting hugged is like in that much pain.
Yeah, it's just kind of there.
Yeah. It just looks like two dudes holding each other, and later on 3 dudes holding each other. So
yeah, I think the bear hug works if one guy is like way bigger than the other guy, and like let's say the small guy comes off the top rope and like the big guy like catches him and does like a carrying bear hug. Like that usually looks pretty good because he's like literally holding him up and like squeezing him and the guy's like writhing in pain. But when you're just standing there together, it really looks like a lazy rest spot, you know?
Exactly. If it were the Giant bear hugging like Eddie Guerrero.
Right. Yeah.
Guerrero could sell that. This just kind of looked pretty bad.
So Hogan gets the upper hand. He does hit the big boot. I don't think he knocks the Giant down with the big boot right away, but he does like hit the big boot. Then he does get the Giant off his feet. Oh, he slams him. He slams him. Right, he slams him. And then he does the leg drop. But then when the referee is going to go do the count, Jimmy Hart like grabs the ref and kind of pulls him from the outside and knocks him down. And at first, Hogan doesn't really know what happened, so he's kind of turning around and looking at the ref, and Jimmy Hart gets in the ring, and Jimmy Hart's kind of acting like he doesn't know what's going on either, and so Jimmy Hart acts like he's going to help the referee get up, but then when Hogan turns his back, Jimmy Hart levels Hogan with the title belt from behind in the back of the head, which I was kind of surprised about. Like, I didn't really think that we would get like a Jimmy Hart heel turn, and I thought him and Hogan were just going to be this like consistent duo, and but that was kind of a nice surprise, I thought, in terms of
it actually made sense to me. Ever since Hogan got a little edgier, he keeps telling Jimmy Hart, who's his best pal, to like shut up, and that's kind of disrespectful. So if I'm Jimmy Hart, I might go join the Legion or the Dungeon of Doom.
That is true. I didn't think about how he had been kind of marginalizing Jimmy Hart over the last month or so. But then once that happens, really all hell breaks loose after that, because all kinds of people come down. So like the Taskmaster comes down, and the Giant is basically like bear hugging Hogan, and Jimmy Hart and the Taskmaster are kind of basically just like cheering him on. At one point, like Savage tries to come help, but then Luger comes down, And Luger kind of attacks Savage and is clearly on the Dungeon of Doom's side. He even puts Savage in the torture rack for a little bit. And we also get the Yeti coming down, basically overkill, because it seems like
overkill.
Yeah, because it seems like the heels already have things pretty under control. But then the Yeti comes down anyway, so it's not really like an insurance policy. It's I don't even know what you'd call it, but the Yeti comes down, and so he comes up from behind Hogan and does a double bear hug. A double-barreled bear hug. And so, yeah, this has been notoriously called a dry hump by people by people in the wrestling world, because it does kind of look like they're just sort of humping Hogan from the front and back, and it looks pretty bad. And very hard to believe that this would inflict that much more pain on Hogan than was already occurring.
It's like emotional pain, I think.
Scarring, emotional scarring. Basically, Savage and Hogan are just kind of getting their ass kicked. And eventually the heels leave, and then, Hogan and Savage are kind of licking their wounds, and they're on the outside, and you can kind of hear Hogan telling Savage, like, "Oh, it was Jimmy Hart, man. Jimmy Hart, crossed us." He just kept saying that basically over and over and over again. And so I think we're going to get Savage and Hogan as kind of the mega powers, or whatever the hell they call themselves. And we're going to get them as sort of a team. And I guess they're going to be feuding with Luger and Hart. I guess Luger and Hart are part of the Dungeon of Doom now, I guess. And I know the Yeti's going to be back at least one more time for World War III. I don't know if he's going to be around again after that or not. I don't think his stay was very long-lived. But, yeah, so kind of a big swerve interference kind of finish. Hogan is still the champ because of a disqualification, so he doesn't lose his belt. But
the Giant took the physical belt, right?
He definitely was carrying it around for a while, and he was kind of mocking Hulk Hogan's poses in the ring, which was pretty funny. But I don't know if he actually maybe he did take the belt with him when he left. I don't really remember. Yeah, and so then, Heenan and Schiavone kind of just give a rundown of sort of everything that's happening, and they kind of tease Nitro a little bit, and that's pretty much it. They roll credits after about 2 hours and 39 minutes. I thought it was kind of interesting to see credits on the show, because interestingly on WWE and WWF, events, you never get credits because apparently Vince hates credits, which I thought was kind of just a funny Vince factoid, is that he just...
Yeah, Vince just hates to give people credit.
I think he just thought it didn't look good for a wrestling show or something.
Mm-hmm.
I think his idea was it makes it look like it's too much of a movie or something that we're producing, because you wouldn't really see credits at the end of a boxing match, I don't think. And so that was probably his... but I just thought that was kind of a funny thing that WCW had credits and WWF never did. I think if I was going to be trying to fix the booking of the pay-per-view, I probably would have swapped out some of the matches we had for some of the things that were the dark matches in the beginning that we didn't get to see. I would have done a little less is more booking when it came to the swerve, because looking back on it, I was just I don't understand at all what Luger's motivations were, or why Jimmy Hart came down during the Luger Savage match, why the Taskmaster got involved in the Luger Ming match,
why Hogan had the Taskmaster face paint.
Oh yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I forgot to mention that. Yeah, at one point in the match, Hogan takes off his bandana and he's got the same kind of black face paint.
And for no apparent reason, which was
what was that about?
This is where I'm going. So I feel like this thing had you either needed to do a fewer swerves, okay, and at the end of the day, if I were to go that route, I'd say don't have Jimmy Hart turn on him, don't have just have Lex Luger do it, all right, and just don't even do the Yeti, all right. Alternatively, you throw in a couple more swerves, all right, really amp it up. So you have everything that happened, but then you have the Yeti turn on the Dungeon of Doom because he sees Hogan with the face paint, thinks he's the Taskmaster.
Oh my God.
Man, that's a 10 out of 10 pay-per-view ending.
I couldn't have done with more swerves. There were too many bodies in the ring and too many convoluted storylines going on. Tex, what were your favorite and least favorite parts of the pay-per-view?
Well, so I gotta say my favorite match on the card was the opening match. With Johnny B. Bad and Diamond Dallas Page. My least favorite part of the card was probably Hawk versus Kurosawa, but this whole finish, this was right up there because it just kind of ruined the whole pay-per-view for me. Like I was looking at it as if I'd, begged my dad to buy this pay-per-view when I was a kid. And so that's how I'm kind of watching it. And I'm looking at it, and I'm like, I see the Yeti come out. And I'm like, why is he coming out? It was just so much. It was like WCW was focused on all the wrong things when they had a pretty decent formula for a pay-per-view. I could have done without the monster trucks. I could do without the Yeti. I don't know, man. It's like the in-ring work of the Giant and Hogan was so secondary to all of the hoopla that came after the match, and it was just, to me, it was one of those things, one of those instances where WCW had the talent advantage. To me, they had the presentation advantage, but they keep shooting themselves in the foot with this gimmicky junk.
Yeah, I don't know whether to blame Eric Bischoff or who exactly to blame, but it seems like when you go too far away from the wrestling formula and try to make it too much of a non-wrestling spectacle, that's a very fine line to be dancing around, I think, as a promoter and a booker. The more spectacle you add, the more you could potentially expand your audience in a way. But I think the more spectacle you add, you also kind of alienate wrestling fans a little bit who, kind of don't want their beloved product to be made into just kind of a joke. I
have to disagree with you. I think I think they could have amped it up a bit more spectacle wise. I'm thinking, like I was talking about my turn with the Yeti, Hogan and Taskmaster face paint. The Yeti turns on the Dungeon of Doom, but Kevin Sullivan is actually dressed up as Hulk Hogan, which confuses Macho Man, then turns on the real Hulk Hogan, who is dressed as the Taskmaster. So I don't necessarily see it as too much. I tend to think that there was a lot there that they didn't do.
Oh man, I love the idea of Randy Savage being confused between Kevin Sullivan and Hulk Hogan. So I guess moving forward, we're going to have Sting feuding with the Four Horsemen, and we're going to have Savage and Hogan continuing to feud with the Dungeon of Doom, I guess. But for such a big build to this Hogan-Giant match, I guess they didn't want to have a conclusive clean finish yet so that they could milk the feud for a little bit longer and everything, but for such a big build and having it kind of play out the way it did, I think I'm in agreement that the DDP Johnny B. Bad match was probably my favorite. I also enjoyed the tag match with Flair and Sting and Anderson and Pillman. That was a swerve that actually felt more real to me. Well, I had never watched a Halloween Havoc pay-per-view before, admittedly, and it was very 90s, kind of hokey. It's still kind of clinging on to, I think, a more like PG, kid-friendly, era. Pretty soon it's going to change, with the NWO and then the Attitude Era with the WWF. But this is kind of that like last vestige of sort of PG family entertainment in wrestling. I guess I'd give the pay-per-view like a 4 or 5 out of 10, something like that. It is memorable, but I don't know if I would really recommend it or rewatch it. But I am excited to see World War III and what they do with that 3-ring, 60-man battle royal in November. And we'll also get Survivor Series coming up in November for the WWF. Business, favorite and least favorite part of the pay-per-view?
I think it's Bobby Heenan and Shivani's commentary after the giant falls off the building in Diamond Doll. And then least favorite, I really think they should have amped it up a bit more at the end. I think there was a lot of missed opportunities to throw in some more theatrics in the climax.
Yeah,
I would have done well as a Booker storyline guy back at this time. Like, you're talking about World War III, they're gonna have 3 rings and 3 giants. Then they should also have like 3 like midget wrestlers. Sorry, cracking myself up.
That would be awesome, actually. they're like, but don't underestimate the midgets. Don't underestimate the midgets. They're part of this match too. Yeah, I mean, there were plenty of midget workers. We'll see some of them in WWF soon. El Torito and Max Mini and people like that. Coming up soon, we'll be doing the October 30th episodes of Nitro and Raw. And then, we'll be looking forward to World War III and Survivor Series. And maybe another In Your House pay-per-view thrown in there as well. So we'll have plenty more content to wrap up the fall of 95. Yeah, I loved the giant falling off the building, but I did not love the Yeti. And I wish they would just pronounce it Yeti instead of Yeti. I don't know why they have to do it that way. But yeah, the whole thing of I'm just thinking about the conceptualization of the Yeti thing, where they not only thought it would be a good idea to have this character, but then they didn't have a Yeti, they had a mummy. I mean, the whole thing, just like, how did that get from the meeting room onto the air without somebody being like, this is terrible? Like,
yeah, why are we doing this?
How did it, like, it's amazing.
I bet I know. I bet it was like Ted Turner's idea, and so they couldn't say no.
It's possible. I mean, like, I guess it was just that they're like, we're really gonna make this into like a Halloween event, and so we have to do something that makes it like spooky and eerie, and so I guess that was the whole thing. Well,
I mean, it was a cheap mummy costume though, and he like had his arms out like he was a mummy, but he was supposed to be Yeti. Like, what? I was so confused, man.
It is great.
Maybe they just thought the mummy wasn't a like scary or unique enough name or something. Like, maybe they were like, that's not going to be like intimidating enough. Like the Yeti's going to be so much more intimidating, or I don't know. I would love if Savage and Hogan found their own monster to like go against the Savage and Hogan.
Yeah, the Mume.
The Mume. Yeah, or they got like Frankenstein's monster, or like a Dracula, or just like something like a vampire or whatever. Like, yeah, like it'd be funny if tomorrow on Nitro they came out with their own monster, But, well, final thoughts on the 1995 Halloween Havoc show.
Best pay-per-view we've watched so far.
3 out of 10.
I will agree it was better than In Your House 4, but it would have been hard to be worse than In Your House 4. So,
yeah.
But I don't know. I think World War III and Survivor Series will be fun next month. So, stay tuned for those. We'll be back with more classic reviews in the future. For Big Business and Big Techs, I'm Frank Incensed. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share our videos.